still getting to it. It's okay.
So I have to wait until there. I was like, I should have done no nothing.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. If everybody please rise and join in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, today will be a meeting of the New Hampshire Fish and Game Commission. It's October 11th, 2022 at 1 o'clock p.m. We're at the Claremont Community Center in Claremont, New Hampshire. The public is entitled to attend all commission meetings, and when recognized by the chairman, the public may speak on any item on the agenda. The chairman reserves the right to limit public comments to the extent necessary for the orderly conduct of the meeting. One thing that I do require from the public is if you stand up to speak, please give your name and where you're from. So we have that on the record. One thing that I'm going to cover before I start into the agenda is you'll see that Commissioner Paul McGinnis is not here. And I've been getting calls about this, so I'm going to straighten it out now. Paul McGinnis' term ended in September as the Commissioner of the Seacoast, what they call the Seacoast Commissioner. He decided he did not want to redo another term, so that term is open. It's not here because he quit, not here because he was heel-hauled or something. His term ended, he didn't want to go further, go for another term. So that position is open, and it's showing that on our website that the position is vacant. Anybody wishing to go for that position, you apply to the governor's office, not the commission. So with that said, I'm going to start with the approval of the September 11th, 2022 Commission meeting minutes. You should have a changed copy in front of you that got amended. That was handed out today. So if anybody would like a motion, make a motion to amend last month's minutes.
I'll make a motion to amend last month's minutes.
Okay, anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Under the committee structure, in the notes for the legislative committee update, I was discussing the new procedure, and it was misrepresented. As a cycle of improvement, the committee is working on a procedure with DOP, Department of Personnel, to have the commission reviews proposed legislation and engage with stakeholders. That is not the Department of Personnel. That is just what we've worked on with the department to be presented pending legislation prior to voting on it, so we have time to engage with stakeholders. So that would be just remove DOP and make that the department.
Okay, anybody else have any other amendments? Motion's been made to amend. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I abstain, Mr. Chairman.
I abstain as well, I wasn't present.
I'm going to abstain as well, since I was not present. That makes it more.
So we have 4 abstains. Second item, consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to approve the minutes. We just-
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second it. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Again, I abstain, Mr. Chairman.
What? the same
Same.
one? Okay. So on the motion passes. On the consent agenda, the following items are grouped together and noticed as consent agenda items to expedite action on routine matters, which may not require public discussion. Commission members may remove certain items if further public input or discussion is deemed necessary. Item number 2A, the approval to accept the following donation totaling $150 in the memory of Richard C. DiManci of Candia, New Hampshire, to be deposited into the small gifts donation account. The Ledoux family of Merrimack, New Hampshire, Keith, Susan, Joe, Ashley, Tom, Laurel, and Liz, $100. And Dan and Paula Harris of Beaufort, New Hampshire, for $50. Item number 2B, approval to accept a $500 donation from Diana Stroud in honor and appreciation for the services provided by Search and Rescue Team on September 11, 2022 in safely assisting her off Mount Moosilauke in Benton, New Hampshire, after she suffered a leg injury. 2C, amended request. No, that's a separate item. So they're looking for a motion to accept items 2A and 2B.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, those in favor of approving 2A and 2B, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Item 2C. Is amended request approved to expend up to $45,000 from the Fisheries Habitat account to purchase 5 backpack electrofishing units and accessories from Smith Group Incorporated. This request changed from 4 to 5 units to take advantage of quantity and exchange discounts, and that'll be done by Diane Timmons.
So here's my show and tell, just so everybody could see. If you haven't seen a backpack electrofishing unit before, this is without the wand, but just wanted to show you how ancient these things are. Yes, go ahead, make the joke, everybody does, if we look like Ghostbusters, because we do. And so, but anyway, this is one of our golden oldies that is no longer working. So very different than the new modern digital ones. These are a rotary dial, it's kind of ancient. Thank you. I just wanted to bring that so everybody could get a chance to see it. So what you have, what I passed out earlier, I emailed it to everybody last week. Just in case you didn't bring the long version, I had that printed out for you. And then this is going to be a shorter version because I was under the understanding that at the last meeting there was going to be a bunch of different presentations today. And so I wanted to not take up and take over the time. So, but of course, if you have any questions, please definitely ask. So, that being said, just quick agenda items, the need for 5 units versus 4, the fisheries habitat account balance, cost breakdown, and final request. So, the need for 5 is very clear that we have 12 units total, that's statewide. Some of our units only have older style ones that are no longer repairable by Smith Root. So we obviously want to get those replaced before they break, and some of them have already broken. 3 out of the 12 older, well, 3 out of the 12 total older units are no longer operable. And we have a new one that I just found out actually last Thursday, while out in the field trying to collect data, that it is no longer working either, and that's one of our newer units. New is a relative term, of course. Not one of our units are younger than 18 years, and a lot of them are in that 30+ category. So very old, they're no longer repairable. We want to get them fixed, we want to replace them because we do a lot of work, not just for fish and game, but for multiple projects that leverage well over $10 million. You'll note in that it's $2 million because I was thinking about my own Region 1 projects when I was in Region 1, but after talking to the fish habitat biologist, he said easily well over $10 million that we leverage with our data we collect. So our data is used all over in a variety of places, in state and out of state. We can't collect it if we don't have workable units. So the proposed expenses in the fish habitat account were, it was over $1 million when we started, but these are things that are coming down the pipeline. Success Pond, the Androscoggin River Watershed Council, I spoke to you guys before, that was the $20,000 habitat project. That just hasn't cleared in the accounting. And then of course the backpack request reduced it from $50,000 to $45,000 after looking at the initial bids, initial quotes, and then also looking at all the discounts that are available. So we really don't need any more than $45,000. Current balance after these expenses is $987,000. And, the balance at the time and now after the requests are $922,000, sorry. Whoops. So the actual cost, so there's a couple discounts. The initial, if we go from 4 to 5, we bounce that discount from Smith Root from 5% to 10%. So it behooves us to do that. And also with our older units and the ones that are no longer working, 4 of the 5 needed, we can exchange those and get $250 back. Woohoo. But per unit. So the total cost for the 5 units is about $43,000. I've asked for a couple thousand extra just because I'm not sure about shipping. And right now that's just an estimate. They don't give me the actual price until we make the order. So want to make sure we have enough for that. And then the original cost per unit, just to bring it back to the original estimate with the exchange, was over $10,000. Basically with all the discounts and everything, it basically makes our 5th unit only $1,763. So well worth switching from 4 to 5. And of course I'm a little biased because I need new units. So with that, just quickly, spend up to $45,000 from the fish habitat account to purchase these 5 electrofishing units. They'll be LR24s, the digital model. Very different than these Model 12s that they no longer work on or provide parts for. And we would be purchasing them from Smith Root. And so if we do it now, like I said, we can maximize that 10% discount and then also maximize the exchange rate. So, and one of the other questions last month was the question about an extended warranty. None of our units have broken before 10 years old, and actually, I would say it's even longer than that, and the parts that have broken are the actual inside of the unit, and they warranty that for 3 years. The extended warranty is $750 per unit. If you do the 5, it's $2,400 a year. And after 10 years, which of course we have none that are broken in that time period, after 10 years, that's $24,000, and we can buy almost 3 units for that cost. So long and short, it's to maximize to actually get the benefit. I don't think the extended warranty would help us. The parts that break the most are the wands and the rat tail connection, which I can repair myself. So long and short, that's sort of the information that everybody had asked last time. And in that full packet is a whole bunch of additional information on the warranty, the discounts, etc. So, does anybody have any questions?
You may have said it, maybe I missed it, but how much are we paying per unit if we get the 5 units?
If you get the 5, sorry, I didn't do that math. It's 8,000, it's a little over $8,000. I think it was 8,500, and then with the 250 off, it's like 82, I think it was. But that doesn't work. So it's a little bit less than that. The quote comes in your packet. You can see the final quote. They don't give the $250 until you send in the old unit. So basically, that quote that you're looking at, the current one, is without the $250 off for each unit. You'll also note that the shipping jumps from 1,000 to 2,000, which is why I'm not feeling 100% comfortable about the shipping. I'm gonna double check on that. But, yeah, so it's gonna end up being a little bit less than 7,000 actually. Do my math for me, Paul, is that what you're doing? Sure.
Diane, I almost wish you'd shown the whole presentation that you'd sent us.
I'm sorry, I thought we had 3
And I'll tell you my
presentations today.
reason for that, Diane.
I have it, I can do it.
Don't get defensive yet.
No,
Last month on the presentation that you gave,
Mhm.
and there were questions about warranties and stuff. Yeah, with the presentation that you gave me last month, I can tell you I walked away from here not wanting to approve,
Yeah,
for a number of reasons.
yeah, I don't blame you. It was there was not enough
With the
information.
presentation that you sent out to us, I don't know what happened between last month and now. I will commend you on, you answered everything that we asked, and then some. It was one of the finest presentations that I've seen, and that one of the things that impressed me the most about it was, you showed the quote. So instead of having us sitting here wondering, is that really the amount? I just want to commend you on this presentation that you sent us. It was outstanding,
Thank you.
and it's made me go where I will be voting for it.
Thank you. And I will tell you 2 things to answer your question. Upon the initial presentation, I was informed that the only thing that you would be interested in was whether or not fish habitat money can be spent. So that, of course, was the slides that I presented. And upon return, found out that the quote was the massive quote, which of course, as I explained last time, we build our own batteries. We do not need to have a package quote with the $10,000 plus unit because we don't need any of that. And it's a ridiculous cost. It's $1,000 for the batteries to buy them from Smith Root, and I made them last year for $340.
Yeah, but
So-
one of the things that you impressed me with was the fact that last month you asked for 4 units.
Mhm.
Now you've come in with 5 units with actually less money.
Yeah,
That is a smart, what I call business decision,
yeah.
that you did. I just commend the work you did on it. I really do.
Thank you. Yes, it was a combination of not knowing exactly what you would want for information and really going in blind, so I apologize. That bigger presentation, which I do have also on here, but the bigger presentation, in hindsight, will be
Okay.
absolutely what I present next time, so that we're on the
Goes
same
to
page.
show we look at it,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Chris?
And how many employees in the department are trained to use the units?
All of the fisheries division. So, all of us, including our hatchery staff. So it's 37, 38 employees. Yeah. And it's a training that, we do so there used to be a federal class with the Forest Service that was held. And, when I started in '96, they got rid of that, and it was really just us training and making sure that, the person that trained the trainer, basically. So, now that's what we do.
Okay, will I, have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve her funding for the units.
A second.
Okay, motion is made by Commissioner Wilson, second by Hodgson. Is there any further discussion?
Chairman Green?
Commissioner Temple?
Yes, thank you. Diane, thank you for the presentation, and under the discussion, I'm hoping as we go forward, as I mentioned last time, that at some point we don't wait 18 years to begin replacements. And I know with today's technology, it changes ever so rapidly. So as you, and I certainly can't tell you how to do a budget, I'll leave that up to our executive director, but I'm hoping at some point somehow there's a mechanism where a little bit of money is set aside each time, so that in 5 years from now or 8 years from now, there's a continuous replacement program, similar to what we would do with a vehicle or another piece of expenditures.
Yeah, and I have done that, it's just a matter of what gets approved, so it's there, crossing fingers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really don't have the mechanism to do like what you're saying. What we do have, what's a little different between us and a lot of other departments, instead of just going to the well every 2 years, is we do have these funds like this Habitat Fund, where we put money into that Habitat Fund, and we know eventually we're gonna pull out for uses like this.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody other on discussion? Not seeing any. The motion is to vote for the $45,000 for the fish electrical. Yeah, that's in there. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Very nice job, Diane.
Thank you. And I apologize, I would have given the elongated
Don't have no
version, I really
problem.
thought there were 3 others. And Candy told me this morning that that wasn't the case, but
And don't expect me to come out and use it either, 'cause I'm not standing in water.
Mr. Chairman.
you have a lot of wild trout waters in Region 4 that are part of that.
Okay, Vice Chair, I'd like to make a note for that.
Just as the meeting minutes are being described, I realized in last month's meeting minutes, there was not the distinguishing initial for Commissioner Hodgson and Hodgson, and so as the meeting minutes are just transcribed, if we could make sure to add that first initial, because in the September or in the August meeting minutes, our names were mixed up, so.
All right, I had made that request, I will
Yep.
do it again. Again. Financial statements. You know, we have, you all have them in the packet. See it here. Okay, next item is the Wildlife Division Game Program, presenting background information on fur-bearing predator species. Oh, sorry.
I know that staff's not here to speak to it, but I did have a question about footnote D, which notes that there's an additional appropriation made for employee raises. And what my question is, here there's a note that says the actual impact of the Fish and Game Fund is greater than this amount. And I was just curious if we could, for next month's meeting, get a follow-up on what that impact was.
Okay.
And why we either couldn't or didn't ask for the entire additional appropriation for raises.
What?
So I'm just curious, I'm wondering why, if we asked for $232,694, an additional appropriation from fiscal to cover staff raises, but that wasn't for the entire amount. Why was that? And what is that amount?
I don't know.
Right, yeah, I know, I wouldn't expect anyone here to have that, but you know, perhaps we could have that answer for the next meeting.
Anything else, Chris?
Nope.
Okay, moving on. Wildlife Division Game Program, presenting background information on fair predator species.
My name is Patrick Tate. I'll be presenting the fur-bearer portion for the Wildlife Division. This came to me from my division chief with an understanding that you're looking for some background information on New Hampshire predators. He and I discussed it. It came to us that we should do fur-bearers. So I assume that I am on the original intent of the request, and I've outlined the common fur-bearers that are considered predators. I'll point out as we're doing this presentation that our predators are quite omnivorous, excluding bobcat. So we have the eastern coyote in the state, which is Canis latrans variant, highly adaptable to multiple habitat types, and to the point that our major cities have eastern coyotes that use those properties. Other states' major cities have that as well. On the slide here, you'll see the abundant range. This map is the NIAFWA, which is the Northeast Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies maps. So biologists from the states and Canadian provinces came up with those maps. And you see dark green is listed as abundant. So eastern coyote is very abundant throughout the Northeast. This name Canis latrans variant is because it's Canis latrans, a western coyote, with a variant. And what the variant is a slight mix of wolf, and depending where you take a sample from an eastern coyote, you're going to get a different type of wolf genetic in it. And also, you get a slight amount of domestic dog. Where you take your genetic sample on an eastern coyote on the East Coast, you'll get a different proportion of domestic dog. So it really sticks to its name, Canis latrans variant. Their home range is approximately 11 square miles. I say approximately because that varies by food availability and region of its habitat. In the state of New Hampshire, we don't know the exact home range. We haven't collared any eastern coyotes to get that range. So for that, I used what's in published literature to come up with the approximate home range. Average birth, 3 to 4 youngs, young. And their diet ranges everything from small mammals up to deer-sized animals. And seasonally use of food resources. So if you look at an eastern coyote's diet in the spring, you'll see that they opportunistically take fawns. If you look during the fall or the summer, you'll see raspberries and other berries. As you get into the fall months, you'll see various nuts. Also, you'll see remnants from hunter kills. So when people remove portions of the carcass in the woods, you'll pick that up in their diet. Come winter and heavy, deep snow, they have the ability to be better at taking down deer. And this is an actual example. This picture was taken in southern New Hampshire. So that is a eastern coyote in New Hampshire. I'll point out it's a male. It's on the larger spectrum. Males on average are up to 45 pounds in New Hampshire. We very rarely see them above 50. Our gray fox. This picture says so many great words about gray fox. That is a New Hampshire picture. It is an apple tree that fox is climbing, and it was feeding on the apples. Again, it's an omnivorous species. Has approximately 4 to 5 square mile home range. 4 to 6 young. Generally believed to be, and I say believed, or is dominated by forest habitat. And game birds, so small mammals and various fruits and grasses is what it'll eat. They're known to also take advantage of bird feeders. I can't count the number of calls where people have said, I had a fox out in my yard raking the bird seed under my feeder. That I don't know the answers to. So it's a tricky question that I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to trick.
No, I say it's tricky because it's important depending on time scale.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I noticed you talked about gray fox, their typical range is 1 to 3 miles, and a red fox is 5. Coyotes run 10, 11 miles range. And I wondered if there was data or if there was a way to get rid of perception of some of these animals being bad, if in fact we were able to say, well, look, bobcats don't really eat turkeys. They do, but not real often. They're much more interested in a rodent that's easy to catch. I assume, in a layman's sort of term. And I'm wondering if there's data out there or data could be obtained out there with respect to some of these other predators. Do fox or do coyotes eat a lot of deer? We know they can, but do they really eat a lot of deer, or is a coyote really interested in an easy meal like a metal mole
Yeah.
or something like that.
So from a standpoint of that, looking at the issue from that angle, there's significant amount of literature that's been studied on diets of gray fox, red fox, from other states that are applicable to New Hampshire. So I point this out because to do a PhD student, everything that's involved, it's a significant cost of a project, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to answer a question that could be done with less expenditure is what I was saying is tricky. Scientific literature is certainly out there to answer all those questions. The perception of homeowners and so you can get masses to understand the importance of species, and I say masses because like 10,000, but in reality, that group of 10,000, 8,000 may buy what you're saying, and 2,000 may be like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And no matter, I have found and call those individuals critics, no matter how much science you show them or information that you present to them, they're going to continue to be critics. So if an individual's a critic of, say, a gray fox because it kills their chickens, they're going to continue to be that critic of that gray fox, no matter how, for the most part, on average, how much information is presented. Currently within the agency, when we get calls about species causing issues on landscapes, we present that information to them, the importance, and leave it up, leave it up to them to make their final judgments.
Can I ask one more, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So do we get a lot of feedback, say from the farming community of either foxes or coyotes killing calves? I mean, it looks to me like a lot of today's farming is, the cows really don't go out to pasture like they did 50 years ago. It seems like a lot of farm animals are inside all day, put it that way.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if we hear from the agricultural community at all about farms that are having issues with predators.
So every few years I'll receive a call from, I'll call it a cattle farmer who's raising beef, so, for protein market and not milk. They have called about issues with coyotes killing calves. Because I'm not tied closely to the agriculture community, I can't answer that very accurately, and I feel that there's somebody in the room that likely has more information on that. And I will turn to that man and ask him what his input is, and that would be the director.
He is hitting on the right thing, the management of the cattle make a big difference. When we farmed in Walpole, we calved, during the summertime, we calved our fresh cows out on pasture. So we did have coyote predation problems there. Up north, we did not. We calved most of our dairy cows were calved inside the barn. I did have one calf that was killed by coyotes, and a certain CO, who's in the room now, actually was the CO at the time that came up and told me it was a coyote, and that was his professional opinion, it was a coyote that killed that calf. That's the only calf I've lost up there. Now, since then, we've added beef roe, my beef for calves, some of them in the barn, if we calve early in the spring, and then some, like right now, we're calving animals out this fall. We, knock on wood, haven't had an issue yet. But it all depends, and, does seem like some areas you have a higher percentage of it or a lower percentage of it. I know we have a sheep and goat farmer in the town north of me. Dan, what are we up to, 14?
Go thereabouts.
Yeah, 14 or 15 head that they've lost this year. The first couple, I think we determined may have been a bear, and then after that, we're thinking probably coyotes, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can have, and why all of a sudden, the coyotes hit that pasture this year, not sure. And they're not sure because they spent a lot of money on fence last year, so. One thing in the agriculture community, free-range chickens are a dinner bell for every species on that chart. And the best I say to people who have chickens and they free range them, you have the McDonald's of the neighborhood. And as Chris Ryan once said on the radio, if you have free-range chickens, they're gonna live short, exciting lives.
When you look at these different species, is there any mortality type that stands out for any of them that we should think about from a species management perspective? We talked about, distemper and Fisher,
Yeah.
and from a management perspective, what needs to be thought of in terms of that?
And so with Fisher, we've continued to relax, reduce from a management perspective, reduce the limits. We've continued to do that. With the fox species, we haven't set limits, but the question becomes setting limits and the effect of what it causes. And where you set those limits, how much is it gonna drive it down, and what's the issues, and the number taken by methods of trapping. And then we got this whole other world of wildlife control operators. So we could put limits in place and then shift removal of species over to wildlife control operators that are causing specific issues on the land. Getting a number of natural loss, and that points back to that noise I mentioned in the data. We don't know what that number and what's driving that loss there. And our harvests are a short window in time on the landscape of a year, so that we can fold by length. And the question to determine, and there's been critics of this before, arguing that the agency needs to do a mortality study to learn what's killing those animals. And that's the only way to be able to answer what you're asking, is to do a mortality study on these various species to get an understanding of what's killing them, at what rate, and then manage, or I say manage, then change our direction to manage for that mortality, if we can. So, what's coming to me in this discussion is we've had critics about shifting baseline syndrome, is what this all goes around with. And as a manager or a person that has influence on management decisions, I looked into shifting baseline syndrome and where that came from, because I recall during my college years in an ecology class, and it evolved at that time. We were talking about fisheries management on the coast. And a discussion we actually had a student who was a commercial fisherman that they were paying to go to college to retrain. And so the shifting baseline syndrome, when I researched it about 10 years, no, it wasn't 10 years ago, 6 years ago. The term developed in 1995 by a researcher, and it was applicable to the marine system. And this paper that I found was a critique on assigning shifting baseline syndrome to land-bearing animals. And one of the issues was, it's easier to remove human input from the ocean than it is to remove it from on land, because people live on land. The second issue was knowing what the level of animal was pre-human input or pre-human management, however you want to call it, is debatable because nobody knows. Another issue was establishing that level, because it wasn't known before, is debatable, and hardly everyone can come to consensus. The separate aspect was, if all human inputs are removed and that species doesn't rebound because it's not a human input causing it, what do you do about it, and what aspect is that? And the other aspect of it was, and it runs around the world, the issue of conservation versus preservation, or the establishment of super sanctuaries or parks, and the removal of the ability of individuals to use those habitats or that landscape as they did, and the controversies it can cause within social dynamics of landowners and interested individuals. So I point all this out because it's a highly controversial aspect of managing fur-bearing species, and getting an understanding of all those pieces that play into that, and the long-term issues around it.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Great presentation. The legislative committee.
Thank you, Chairman Green. And before I get started, I want to thank all the commissioners for the support and the cards and sympathy that I received with the recent passing of my mother. Thank you very much. So on the legislative committee, we met today. I want to thank Commissioner Hodgson for hosting, chairing last month. Can I ask for a motion on just consent the whole list of the?
No.
Okay.
What I would like to see done is, in order to save time, is take the items that you want to bring before the commission, you make the initial motion, and somebody will second it, and then we will have a discussion.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. I'm operating off the September 30th list. I know some people in the committee did not have that list. So could I have a motion on the baby license?
That was read.
That's been full.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be.
Okay. Well, okay. Can I have a motion on the non-payment of search and rescue expenses?
What is your committee decide?
Our committee.
And in other words, what we do is, for an example, if you're gonna do a house bill, and now you say, house bill 100. You as the chairwoman come out and say, I'm making a motion, you know, the committee is, we're in favor of it, so make a motion that House Bill 100, the committee is in favor of that bill. Then somebody will second it, then we'll have a discussion, and then we'll have the vote for the bill.
Okay.
We don't do them all in a package. We need the time for the discussion on each bill. We've had two that were full. We do not need to hear those.
So we had a committee concurrence. We did have Commissioner Hodgson was asked for some of the votes initially. But we had a 3-0 recommendation for non-payment of search and rescue expenses. Like a motion for the rest of the commission to accept this.
Second.
Thank you. You call the vote.
Yeah, I'm just pulling this thing up. So a motion has been made to accept approve the wording for the, what was the fee on?
Search and rescue response expense
On
recovery.
the search and rescue response. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion passes.
We voted 3-0 on what is called license tweaks. Now this item, the Colonel explained, will actually come in two separate bills. One is to allow for electronic duck stamps as proof of license, and the other one is discharging firearms in urban areas as grounds for a hunting license suspension. So these will actually be two separate bills when they're brought before. And we voted 3-0 to support both bills.
Susan, if
All right, so
I-
you've got one for the DMV suspends the license, and then you have a separate one for
no, we're on the license.
the
Taking
duck stamps.
Yeah.
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 The duck stamps was broken up in two sections. Take each section at a time, please.
So we voted 3-0 for the electronic duck stamp, and that's just modernizing the way people can prove that they have a stamp. and this was the recommendation of the Colonel. We voted 3-0 on that.
I'll make the motion, we accept that and vote for it.
Okay, the motion has been made to accept the first paragraph of amend RSA 2096. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We did have a second,
Yeah.
like the vote.
Okay. Aye.
Those opposed? Your motion passes.
Second under license tweaks was adds discharging firearms in an urban area as grounds for a hunting license suspension. This is in keeping with the signs that we frequently see when we drive into a town that says urban compact. So it's just clarifying that, and we voted 3-0 on that. I have a motion to accept this.
Anybody second it? Discussion? Not seeing any discussion, call for the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, your motion passes.
Number 4 is the game camera bill. This was an item we worked on last year, but it ultimately died in the Senate. The Colonel has worked with both the New Hampshire Timber Owners Association as well as the Farm Bureau.
Okay, make a motion,
And-
please. You're having a discussion.
I would like to have a motion to accept this.
Anybody second it? Now discussion.
So, the staff in the department put a lot of effort into trying to make this game bill work. We have what we believe is some, very good language, and, we do expect some potential pushback from the hunting community. But I think it's, something they will ultimately accept because, if we don't resolve this issue, we're gonna have an increase in people posting their land against hunting. So we have to meet people that are generous with allowing public access to their land to hunt. We have to meet them halfway. I'd like a motion to accept this. This did pass at the committee level 3-0.
Okay, any further discussion?
I had some discussion. I originally was really pressing for more details on this from my constituents. They've changed this enough to satisfy me. I guess there's a lot of landowner groups that are really worried about these cameras that aren't necessarily on game trails. And, you know, varied uses for our use of our woodlands. I found it hard to find some landowners, but there's just overwhelming support with the modernization of these cameras, how easy they are to get and how easy they are to put, and getting them on your phone. Part that really pushed me over was the written permission will not be required, it's just permission. So there's less, you know, shuffling of paper and the department being involved, so I reversed course on this and I voted to support it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, motion has been made to accept the game camera bill wording. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
The land and camp leases is number 5.
Which one, Susan?
Land and camp leases, number 5. That was voted 3-0 at the committee level. This was largely just trying to tidy up the monetary threshold on a limited number of camp and land leases we have.
Okay, did you make a motion? Then we'll have discussion.
Yeah, I made a motion to accept the committee's recommendation.
Your motion is to accept the amendments that you may want to make, correct?
Yes.
I'll second that.
You have a second. Now discussion.
So, did somebody say something?
Okay, Commissioner Hodgson.
My apologies, I had stepped out when this was discussed within committee. I think I'm not clear on the problem this is trying to solve. If somebody could help me understand that would be great.
Yeah, so it's streamlining the process that we currently have to go through, and it brings it in line with other existing RSAs. We don't want to buy properties that have camps on them. But in the event that we find a property that we're very interested in, if there is, we want to have a system in place that would allow us to allow that property to be maintained there as well, because of the kind of tradition of that. Currently, there's quite a bit of legwork that has to go on for that to take place. We don't have anything in existing RSA that streamlines that process as we do for other areas or other agencies do, like DNCR has. DNCR has quite a bit more leases on property they own than we do. But essentially, this is kind of housekeeping to bring any property we have that might have a camp lease on it, similar to other. We currently have an RSA. It's just for Connecticut lakes, though. So this would bring it up. This would bring the RSA similar to that, and what's already in existing RSAs for DNCR and other state agencies to deal with leases.
Anybody have any other discussion? You have a follow-up?
Follow-up.
Go ahead.
So, this says the executive director of Fish and Game Department may execute leases or contracts for the short-term use. 0 to 5 years does not seem short-term to me. So it says a period of more than 5 years or more than 5,000 should be approved by, the governor. So 5 years seems like a large leap, a large barrier to overcome, going from 30 days to 5 years. So it seems contradictory to me, and I think I'm not understanding what it's trying to solve.
Up north on the timberland, they're usually 100-year leases. So 5 years would be a relatively short lease compared to, so like if we bought a piece of timberland that had 100-year leases on it, in order for it to be approved by the director, we'd have to cut it down to a 5-year lease. If we maintain that 100-year lease, it would have to be part of the approval process.
How many leases do we have now?
I believe we have 4. And we're looking at a new piece of property that we probably won't be able to get if we don't allow a lease back on the camp.
How would,
Go ahead.
how would the current RSA prevent us from,
It doesn't, this just makes it easier, it makes it less time consuming for staff to achieve the goal. This won't change what we're doing.
Yep.
It'll just change, make it easier for our staff to get the job done.
Anybody else? My thoughts on this are about 99% in line with what Commissioner Letson was saying, that you're moving the period from 30 days to a period of more than 5 years, or for an annual consideration of more than 5,000. I don't know any other way to put this. It sounds to me like it's just trying to skirt the executive council. Hold off on going before the executive council.
Isn't the limit $10,000 now on the executive council?
No, I think what it is the process. The process is being changed to what was put in place who knows when, for the reason of watching the state's money.
Yeah, so all the timeframes and everything were pulled from other existing RSAs that deal with camp leases. So it's bringing all those into line with the existing RSAs from other state agencies.
So if we don't make the change, Fish and Game will be the agency that doesn't participate. We would not be on equal footing with other agencies before the council.
I'm not a big believer in being a follower. I'm just not comfortable with this, that's all I'm saying, I'm not. Not comfortable.
Well, this actually lowers the threshold with the executive
What?
it lowers the threshold with the executive director's authority. Because it's a $10,000 is the typical limit now for most things with the executive council. So it's actually below the executive council's threshold.
I don't know exactly what the amount is for the threshold.
That's on a contract, on a donation, it would be $2,500.
So on a contract, it's 25.
No, contracts are 10.
Okay.
donations would
The
be,
donations.
would be 25.
Motion has been made to, oh, sorry, is there any other discussion? Not hearing any, motion was made to approve to amend RSA 2210. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I'm opposed. Two are opposed. Rest of ayes, your motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item.
This was item 6, non-game donations. I'd like a motion to support the committee on a 3-0 vote.
I'll make the motion to support.
Okay, motion's been to support non-game donations. Do I have a second?
Second.
And seconded. Discussion.
Well, this was another sort of housekeeping thing, was just to, be able to take smaller non-game donations, which are very limited from what the executive director explained. We don't actually get that many.
No, we do.
We get, but they're small, the
Yeah,
increments are small.
They tend to be small. We get, right now, we're getting roughly 3,000 a year. So, and Dan can speak to this probably even better than I can. Somewhere along the line, these donations were not brought before the commission. The law says they have to, according to our AG, the law says that they have to be brought before the commission. So the question is do you want to approve, 3,000 more donations a year? Or do we do something like this that would then allow you to get like I suggested, would be an annual report? All of our donations that we receive go up on a webpage. And they take it on for a while, take it down for a while.
So the committee supported this 3-0 with the executive director's explanation.
Dan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that sums it up good. Well, there is precedent, there are other accounts that have this similar exemptions.
Commissioner Hodgson.
So for our consent agenda, we just accepted $150 worth of donations, another 500 which went into search and rescue. We regularly have a handful of those each
Right.
month, so we would no longer have those.
No, you would have all of those.
All of
This is
those.
just for the non-game.
Just for non-game.
And currently, you are not seeing the non-game donation. There would be roughly 250 to 300 a month that you would have to approve.
I want to get into that.
And they wouldn't come like that, because
Yeah.
they do a campaign, so you might have a month of 1,000, and then the next month you only have 100. Keep you busy, right?
Just what I need. Any more discussion? Okay, the motion has been made to amend RSA 20633. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, your motion passes. I think it was the 1,000.
The next item involves OHRVs, and this has to do, we supported this 4-0, and I'd like a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept this and vote in favor.
Which one? There's two.
7 was the Beaver one that went away.
No,
There were
there's
2 7s, so the first 7 was the Beaver one, and
There's 2 OHRV RSA, so I think we should clarify which one.
we,
The one she has separates them.
oh, okay. Yeah, whatever copy I have, is the September 30th one.
Okay, you've got one to amend RSA 215A21, which is no HRV registered for use on a way in this state or any other jurisdiction except OHRVs registered for purpose under RSA 26141 can be used recreationally on designed OHRV trails. That's your first one.
Yes, and that's the one that the Colonel explained, maybe some of you have heard about the Montana
I'll make a
LLC.
Right.
I'll make a motion to
There's
support.
been a motion made.
Wait a second.
And
Oh, Paul made it.
he made the motion to accept both at the same time. I would suggest he withdraws his motion and go with the one at a time.
With the blessing of the committee, I would like to change my motion. Are we calling this Part A, Part B?
Sure.
I make a motion, we accept Part A.
Okay.
I'll
Do
second.
we have a second? You have a second. Discussion.
So the Colonel reminded us that some people can title their vehicle in Montana and avoid our regulations. So this takes care of, evidently up in Errol area, this has been a problem with people titling their vehicles in Montana, but they don't have to be in compliance with our regulations. So this just tightens it up, and it's similar to other things that the DMV does for vehicles in general in the state. We voted 4-0.
Any more discussion? All right, hearing none. Motion's been made to amend RSA 215-821. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Your motion carries. Now go with your second.
Committee voted on the second one with the OHRVs 4-0. Can I have a motion to discuss?
Did I give a second? Okay.
Eric,
Discussion?
so this has to do with, and I asked the Colonel because he evidently has a lot of experience with this. So they have these big OHRV festivals such as in Milan and Berlin, and this allows basically these events to occur. Right now they violate state law to a certain extent. Would you like to add anything?
Sure, so just, the events have always been allowed, but what happens is people participate in those events with unregistered machines with louder than normal exhaust, but they are private events, they get the permit for it, so we have allowed it to continue. But we'd like to see the law change that gives them the ability legally to do that. And so this would be a housekeeping measure to allow for that moving forward. So only on private events, only under permit approved by us can they do that. So that doesn't change the trail riding, loud exhaust issues that we have on the trails. This would only be for a private event, similar to the grass drags this past weekend. We literally could have shut down the drag strip because they're unregistered, they're loud, and there's no law that allows for that. We wouldn't do that. That's a big moneymaker for that area and the OHRV community, so we've allowed it to occur. But we're asking that the law be changed so that legally we're protected to allow that to continue.
Further discussion, any comments?
Any further discussion?
Questions? This is only on private property.
Only in private events, that's correct. Only permitted private events, not, I would be, I'm not actually in favor of doing it that way either. I certainly wouldn't be in favor of doing it on open trail systems. But in a private event, where they've required a permit, and they usually have them on private property, not always. Jericho is a public state park that they close to the event. But during those permitted events, fundraising events, we have allowed it. And we'd like to continue, but we'd like the legislation to support that decision.
Okay, any further discussion? Not seeing none, the motion was made to amend RSA 215-A3. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
The last one is,
The motion passes.
the last one is number 8. It's involves tree stands. The committee passed this 4-0. Like to make a motion to discuss.
I'll make a motion, we vote in favor of this.
Okay, a motion and a second is made on the tree stand one. Discussion.
This was very similar to the Cameron bill. We have a lot of large landowners that are generous and keep their land open to hunting and other activities. And what I hear consistently, so my personal experience in Carroll County, is that these landowners don't mind the hunting, but they just like to know who's on their land. And so this gives the opportunity to continue to put tree stands on private property that's open, but it also identifies who owns that stand. And we tried a version of this last year and it just got too complicated and died again in the Senate. Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Yeah, one of the biggest changes was the written, to write on the stand, have some sort of placard. Last year, they're asking for a certain 3x6 card. Landowners don't want stuff blowing around in the wind and falling anywhere on that stand. You just have to have your contact information. I think that was the big change this year.
The other important piece for landowners is this particular change would also require hunters to remove their equipment. Can't leave it up year-round and mark the territory without, this is important, without landowner permission. So if a landowner doesn't mind you leaving your stand up year-round, that you can still do that. But most of the landowners I talk to want to know who that person is. They've been here for 5 years, they haven't come back to the stand, and this will give them that opportunity to get that information. So it would require them to remove it by January 1st each year, unless the landowner gives them permission to leave it there. Then they can leave it as they have done. So.
And it does not change the responsibility of the person that's placing the tree stand to not cause any damage to the trees. You know, cutting of limbs or drilling holes or anything like that without written landowner permission. So that remains the same. It's mainly just identifying who owns that tree stand.
Any more discussion? Okay, the motion's been made to amend RSA 207-36. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Do you have anything else on this here?
Just to say that we did have a discussion about discussing the rules, but after reviewing the proposed rules, they were all of an information-only category for the commission. It did not require consent, approval, or anything of that nature. So we had a brief discussion, but it was not in depth, and we agreed that these were information-only items, and we'll just await when we see them.
Is that it?
I have one last thing. I do plan to schedule a standing legislative committee meeting at 11 a.m. prior to each monthly meeting for the next at least 5 months. So I'll be working with Tanya to get that out for public posting, make sure that happens.
How many months?
5.
5. I thought I heard 7. 5. I was gonna say. 5.
75, yeah, 5.
It'll change.
It would be on the whole committee.
So you're all done with legislature?
Yes.
Governance committee.
Governance
Commissioner
Committee,
Gavney.
we met prior to this meeting, and we plowed through some more ground. We have the goal of, we're going to meet in November. In December, we'll have something that we can send to the entire commission for their consideration with respect to everything we've been discussing for several months. And hopefully in January, we can take a position on all of it and go forward from there. So we're in pretty good shape, I think. So more to follow.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Sustainability and strategic plan.
My report is that the next committee meeting will be on the 18th at 4 p.m. Tammy's already put it on your calendar. Okay. purpose of the meeting will be, over the summer, the staff, all the divisions completed a planning matrix that the committee provided them. They came back in and we'll review them. So that'll be priority number one for the committee meeting, and the second will be to finalize the survey that you all have seen in draft form, but it is not yet finalized. So that's an update for the committee.
And that's it, Chris?
Yep.
Resource and Infrastructure Committee.
Nothing specific to report, other than we're gonna try to have a meeting, prior to the November timeframe.
Okay. Public Engagement and Education, Commissioner DeRosa.
Yeah, we had our first meeting this morning, and me as chair. We discussed one of our first priorities is making a strong effort to clarify to the public the role of the commission, how people engage with the commission, and really making that process black and white to hopefully get more public engagement coming towards commissioners as well as commissioners back towards the public. So that's one of our first big priorities. The second thing is that we did want to bring a vote. We voted 3-0 to favor automatically doing a plaque for every former commissioner after they've served, whether they want it or not. So I want to present that to the rest of the commission to approve that.
I think that's better than the draft.
Yeah.
So would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to say that we automatically give people plaques when they're from the commission.
I'll second it. I'll second the motion.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Lakes Management Advisory Committee, New Hampshire Rivers and Management Advisory Committee, there's been no appointment yet made. As of the other day, there wasn't any. Do you have any old business? Not hearing any new business. I know, she's gonna give me a heart failure. Is that what's to catch up? Okay. New business? Oh, not hearing any.
I don't have any.
Amazing. Commissioner reports. Not hearing any of those. Director's report.
Mr. Chairman, I have a fire report. I've been appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives to be on the Connecticut Lake Advisory Committee. They've had one meeting of the full committee, had 2 meetings of the recreational committee. The recreational committee has been fairly hot on the ATV issue. Right now, on that track, there's 11 acres of ATV trails. The ATV community came in and wished to expand that by 70 more miles. That's running into an awful lot of objections, and so it's probably not going to happen. They may have a little bit, but not much, but it's starting to get a pretty hot issue up there in the Connecticut Lake area. So, we've got the next meeting in a couple of weeks, so of the full committee, so we'll see where that goes.
Would you mind filling us in on that each month, by the way?
What's that?
I think that's a very interesting topic, that, would you mind filling us in each month when you have a meeting on what's going on with it?
Sure. Sure.
I think it's,
The director sits on the committee also, the full committee.
I don't wanna overdo them, I'll ask you.
Sure.
You better not. Hey, any other commissioners wanna make a report? Commissioner Temple?
Yeah, just wanted to thank everybody here for coming to Claremont today. Appreciate it. I know there's some very familiar faces out here, and some maybe even have some comments under the public input. Secondly, I had an opportunity to participate in the New Hampshire Trap Shooting Association's championships. didn't bring home any trophies or anything, but it was nice to see about 150 or so shooters participate over a 3-day period for clay target shooting.
Imagine the cost of ammunition was a little up there, right?
Cost of ammunition is tough right now if you can find it.
Okay, would any other commissioner like to make a report? I knew that wouldn't make it. Go ahead.
No, it's less of a report, but maybe a comment. With the Seacoast Commissioner position vacant right now, I just want to make sure folks understand that the Seacoast is in Rockingham County. And as if there is anything I can do to support while the Seacoast Commissioner is vacant, I'm happy to do so.
I'll take that out of my new stuff to report.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You're up.
I'd like to take a minute to introduce our new HR administrator, Dee Grimes. Dee, would you stand up and fill in the commission? She's been with us for a fairly short period of time, but she comes from our friends over at Crotchet Mountain, right?
Right.
And I'm happy to have her report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Dean.
Thank you.
Tonight will be my third County Farm Bureau meeting that I've been invited to. They do an annual meeting where they set county policies. And this is my third annual meeting that I've been invited to this year to talk about the history of the upcoming camera bill and the tree stand bill. So that has certainly been a hot topic in the farm bureaus in the state, as well as with the New Hampshire Timberland Owners Association. I also had the opportunity to attend the New Hampshire Wildlife Heritage Foundation Northwoods Brewery introduction of the Forever Locked Double IPA. So those of you that know more about beer can explain what that means, but it was a good kickoff for the beer, and also a really good night for our Wildlife Heritage Foundation. They stayed around. This was a split event. The next day they had a full day event with our dog team was down there and trying to raise money for the Wildlife Heritage Foundation. Also, thanks to Rob Johnson, I was invited to have lunch the other day with the president of the American Farm Bureau. A very interesting gentleman. This is a fellow that travels all across the United States in farm country in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and a few other locations. And his first question to me is, what is up with all these turkeys? So our wild turkeys really caught his eye, and he seemed to at least be under the impression that we have a very healthy population of turkeys. I would like to take a minute and propose the following presentation schedule. In January, I would like to ask New Hampshire Trout Unlimited to attend and give a presentation on their programs and their interactions with the department. In February, we'll have Shree Patterson give a presentation on offshore winds. And in March, we'll have a presentation from Wildlife on legal hound hunting methods in New Hampshire.
We're gonna have those at Concord, right?
Yes, all three of these will be in Concord. So if I can have a commissioner make a motion on that to accept that.
I don't know.
Or I suppose you can just do it, right?
Now,
You
this
said-
is something we were asked to do, but, for the commission, I'll make the motion to hold the January, February, and March meetings at headquarters in Concord, with the January meeting for presentation from the New Hampshire Trout Unlimited. February meeting will be from Sherry Patterson on the solar wind farms, and March will be on the hound hunting thing that Commissioner Temple brought up. Keep in mind, any of it could change. Not cast in stone, that's our plan. What we're trying to do is for us in public to know ahead of time when there's gonna be a meeting, instead of waiting a couple of weeks before on the website. I'm gonna ask the director, put him on the spot here, if he'll post those three along with November and December now, well, not this minute, but You know, when you
November
get-
and December
when you
is
get
out.
back- When you get back. to
Yeah,
top.
no, we've already made the change so that we put
Yeah.
November and December up, we'll add these three to it.
But if we put January, February, and March up there, it gives the public, you know, if you wanna, I know there's one gentleman that's usually here, takes a day off from work. So gives you a heads up on when you can be here. That's my motion. Anybody want to second it?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion.
All in favor?
If we make a motion and a vote,
Yes.
then that would take away the flexibility from you, the director, to make a last minute scheduling change if, for, you know, example, if Sheree had to travel or had an illness. So, because
I
we made a
did
vote.
say it's not cast in stone.
I understand, I just wanna make sure we're following protocol, because if we take a vote on it, and we have never taken a vote on topics like that before, I think it might hamstring us a bit, and I would support you and the director working together to create the schedule as you have done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Just
sir.
for clarity, we have taken votes in the past on what we're going to bring forward.
Okay, thank you.
I know for the longest time, we used to vote for the upcoming meetings, where we were gonna hold them and what we were gonna do and not do, and, you know, whether we were gonna let the vice chair always get jump in and talk. Okay, motion's been made to accept it. Any
Can I
other
just clarify, so
discussion?
the motion includes the flexibility to change it?
That's in there.
Okay, great. I'm ready.
That's what it means by it's not cast in stone.
Thank you. Everyone's, I'm clear now.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Thank you.
Good.
To my report.
Okay.
Ray, may I ask, were we looking at changing the date of the day of the month? that we were
Yes,
looking
it
at?
starts next
Better
month,
have.
the third Tuesday of every month.
So
As a
those meetings
reminder.
will not be the second Tuesday?
They'll be the third.
Okay.
That's also as a reminder to the public, starting next month, we've changed to the third Tuesday of each month.
Chairman,
So this is Commissioner Price.
thank you. We received this, note, internal memo from Adam Cheney,
From what?
from Adam Cheney,
On-
the CO, on the birdshot issue on
Okay.
the high
that-
school
that-
down in Kingston.
All right, go ahead.
And I just want to know what the current status is of looking at getting the area reopened.
Haven't even moved on it yet, right now, we've done a temporary closing. So I haven't moved on trying to reopen it.
Okay. I mean, you know, looking at limiting shot, that sort of thing, or, you know, those sort of issues. They're using 1,500 feet per second most likely, and that's the reason it went over here.
Yeah. Oh, no, we haven't, I've been out of the office since I closed that, so I haven't had a chance to have any discussion with any staff on it.
Anything else? Calls on the public. Yes.
Hi, my name's Diane Richardson. I'm a licensed track and dog handler.
Yeah.
The items I can talk about are just the things you talked about today, or can I bring up something different?
I'll allow you to bring up what you want as long as it doesn't get carried away. How's that?
Okay.
How's that for you?
The first one's for Patrick.
What?
The first question I have is for Patrick, in his presentation on fishers.
Okay.
There was a very small study in California that indicated that 40% of the fisher were being killed by bobcat. Is that at all relevant to New Hampshire?
So, bobcats are a predator of fisher. It goes back to what Paul asked about. We've had a situation one killing flocks, but we don't know the extent of it occurring in New Hampshire. It certainly is, bobcats certainly are a predator of fisher, and that's the best I can answer.
Yep, no, I just thought I'd bring it up since the bobcats seem to be going up and the fisher seem to be going down, so.
Yep.
I saw that study and I just thought I'd mention it. The other thing is two things. Last year I was involved in a track for a deer.
You know what?
In a track
Yeah.
for a deer, sorry, my little horse. A track for a deer in, Plainfield, Lebanon area. And it turned out the guy had shot the deer, didn't have a license. I ended up doing the track with C.O. Murphy. We recovered the deer went to food pantry. He ended up being fined for whatever it was, he didn't wanna pursue recovering the animal, he didn't wanna recover the animal. But in the meantime, I was supposed to go to court for this because he didn't wanna pay his fine. He eventually paid his fine, actually his mama paid his fine. But it turned out that there's nothing in the Fish and Game rules that he shot his deer without a license, he's not forbidden to get a license. He was fined, but he's not forbidden to get a license. Colonel Jordan, is that?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, it is.
So, that just seems wrong to me. You know, he killed the deer without a license, but he's not forbidden to ever get a license because of it. So I just thought I'd bring that up to you guys,
Okay.
just so you know what that is. The last thing, and I'll make this brief, is I approached the, social media people, whoever that is, man, woman, I don't know who it is, they're a mystery person. And asked them if they could make a post on the Fish and Game page, or the law enforcement page, about RSA's 207-57, which is interference with hunting, trapping, and fishing, and 466-42A, which is stealing dogs and tampering with collars, like tracking collars. They replied and said that law enforcement needed to originate that post. If I harass, impede, stalk, or cyberbully a law-abiding hiker, pedestrian, driver, biker, or birdwatcher, I'm gonna be charged with an offense. It would be nice if the commission or Fish and Game could get this information out to the non-hunting and the anti-hunting community to make them aware that these two RSAs do exist and they could be enforced and charged for harassing hunters, impeding us. I experience this quite a bit as I track up in Hanover. They're having their deer management special permits up there. So between me tracking wounded deer and talking to hunters up there, there's a lot of harassment that goes on up there, and there isn't any enforcement of those RSAs. And most people don't know those RSAs even exist. So I just wanted to bring that up to you guys.
Thank you, Diane. Sure.
I'd like to speak briefly.
Say your name and where you're from?
Name, Thomas C. Cross, 15 Huntley Mountain Road, Washington, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Permission to speak. Good afternoon, Commissioner and Chairman. My name is Tom Cross. I'm the face behind a communication that was sent to the Commission in February. It was in your 3/8/22 meeting. It's regarding radio collared hunting dogs chasing coyotes. I saw this, I'm paraphrasing the letter that was sent. I saw this happen in real life on my property in Washington, New Hampshire. 3 or 4 pickup trucks spaced out on a dirt road. I stopped to talk to one, they're sitting in their vehicles, and he shows me on his phone where the hound or the dog is chasing the coyote on my property. They're waiting for it to get out of the truck so that when it gets near the road, they can do what they need to do. I'm a native New Hampshire, 70 years old. This isn't hunting. After I've thought about this since February, March meeting, it's been about 7 months, this report was helpful. I almost compared this honestly to a pinball game at the bowling alley. The ball goes up, it's coming back down, you got the flippers you're using back and forth, switching pages. Ball comes down, you hit the back up. This is fun and enjoyment. Hounding to kill a coyote, in my view, is just joy killing. If you are going to allow radio-collared hounding, please give the coyote some relief. This is New Hampshire. It's a live free or die state. Coyote is not free. It's hunted and can be hunted 24/7, 365. Commissioners, I'm not asking you to move Mount Centipede. I'm not asking you to move Mount Monadnock. I'm not asking you to move the Connecticut River. I am asking you to give some relief to the coyote. And I want you to know, I have a lifetime hunting and fishing license. I am not opposed to hunting coyotes. I'm opposed to the radio-controlled collar that you can sit in your truck and see where it's coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Welcome. Keep it brief, please.
May I approach the visual aid there?
As long as you don't change it.
I'm not changing it. No, I love it. No. I'm using this to prove a point. Commissioners, whether it's a shifting baseline or a failure to achieve sustainable populations, I want you to look at this chart. We have the southern one in yellow basically decreasing from 3 down to 2, okay? That's about 100% decrease, right? And yet this was characterized as only a slight change. It makes a difference how long you look back and how your chart shows, with 6 being the upper. If 4 was the upper of that, that'd look a lot more significant. Also, I think I sent to all of you a chart looking back to 1990. Well, New Hampshire is unique in having good catch per unit effort data back to there. All of that should be used, okay? I can debate shifting baseline. That is a shifting baseline. It's not trying to shift it back to pre-colonial days or something like that. We're only looking at putting another decade in. If that were true, that chart would be even more precipitous. Now Fisher, I think it was pointed out by Pat and others that we have a decrease in catch per unit effort. We have a substantial decrease in harvest. Someone mentioned, well, maybe that's because of distemper. It doesn't matter. I mean, it could be dying, they could be dying from COVID. The fact is, you have a certain population that you try to manage for sustainability. So if you have a variable that comes in that is basically affecting the population, one has to take that into consideration when managing, at least I would think. Commissioner Temple brought up the idea of, do these predators, are they good for anything? Well, I think you all know that fur bearers are managed somewhat differently than deer and bear. And within the fur bearers, beaver and muskrat, which are herbivores and maybe have a higher reproductive capacity, should also be managed differently than the predators here. And we have several predator species that I believe are in decline, and I think that decline is significant. You've seen it from what I've shown you in some of the graphs. I guess in interest of time, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Will. Sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Kirby, and I live here in Claremont. And I'm glad that you're here today and meeting here. It's been very inconvenient and time-consuming to get to Concord, so I appreciate you being here. Now, I enjoy our wildlife, our state's wildlife. I enjoy walking in the woods, watching the squirrels and other animals scurrying around, listening to the birds sing, watching the wild turkeys gather in a field. It's uplifting, it's spiritually uplifting to me. I don't kill them. I don't want them killed. However, there's nobody on this commission who represents my concerns, my issues. Because you all have to have had a hunting license, a fishing license, or a trapping license. By state law, you have to have those things. And that affects your mindset. That has affected your decisions. And to me, I'm very troubled by your lack of compassion as a commission. Your lack of compassion is painful to me. There needs to be other voices on the commission. I know the law was changed last year to get some other voices, at least have the opportunity. However, having a license to kill is still a requirement, and I resent that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none.
I'm good.
You wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Sorry, those in favor to adjourn.